No. So what happened is Robert here got me ice cream to order from DoorDash. And so I have no idea what I'm about to eat. So this
Nice.
is ube brownie ice cream.
Oh, fancy.
Um, and they're promising me it doesn't have nuts in it, which I'm allergic to nuts. So that would be a problem if they put.
I hope so. Well, it's live, so who knows? Maybe you'll have a really bad allergic reaction. It'll be good, good drama.
That'll be good content. All content is good content, right? So anyways, what do you got today, Chris?
I have this as my I pre-dished out Talenti fancy
Ooh,
brand mango sorbet, which is a favorite among my family, and it's super good.
that's great. That's great. I love Talenti, so it's a good call.
The containers
So
are good.
anyway,
You can use them for other things, like
that's
clear
right.
plastic containers.
They're great. All right. So cheers.
Oh yeah, all
Cheers
right.
to the,
Everybody
the
can
the
watch.
first of this series. So to everyone joining, oh, that's really good.
All
Wow.
right. No
Um,
nuts.
so to every not yet. So to the folks joining, I know people are streaming in here. This is yes, as I think our invitation and the Zoom thing said, this is a new series of interesting conversations about the world of research and AI with interesting and experienced people that I want to hear from, that I want to talk to, many of whom I get to talk to already all the time, like Chris. So I figured we might as well bring these conversations out in the open, and then someone on our team came up with this brilliant idea of calling it the Insight Scoop and eating ice cream. So this is the Insight Scoop eating ice cream.
I did
So
have well spherical scoops when I started, but they've sort of like because I was like, oh, I really want to live up to the scoop idea.
yeah, I don't know how long ago this was poured, but this is just soup at this point. That's
The inside soup.
so anyways, all right. So real quick, what are we gonna talk about today? I have a bunch of topics. The format of this is supposed to be relatively informal. So what that means is like I'm gonna fire questions. We'll get into things. I have a long list of things I want to talk about, but we'll see how far we get. We'll probably stop our bantering at about the 45 mark. Maybe, depending on how things go, we'll figure it out. But ultimately, during it, if you are joining and watching and listening, like just throw out questions. I want to make this as much about other people getting to explore areas that they want to do, and that way you'll know that there's no way we could have prepared. So please do ask questions. I think, is it the chat or the Q&A? Q&A. So Q&A, ask questions, and we'll go from there. Okay, cool. So Chris, let's start with this. Well, I guess let's start real quick. For those who don't know, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Outset. You probably know that because you probably got the invitation from our emails or LinkedIn posts. But that's me, which is not the exciting part. But Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself, your career. Kind of give us the overview of why did you come into research? Where have you been in the world of research, and where are you now?
Yeah, okay, cool. Man, I'll try to keep it brief. So I have, I think like a lot of UX researchers, I don't come from like, well, back in my day, there was no like degree, in that, maybe there are now. But I didn't even get close to that. I don't have a degree in psychology or human computer interaction or anything. I have a degree in mechanical engineering, because I was interested in like products, and that was the closest I could get. I did that for a little bit, didn't really love it. Then I did human factors engineering, which is like user experience for medical devices, and that was super interesting. I loved it immediately. And it was like I was doing design and research. The more I did research, the more I like fell in love with it. Every time I did, like I started with like usability studies. I'm like, this is so cool. Like people like don't understand the designs. It's the design's fault. Like that was like a revelation. It's not the people's fault. It's the design's fault. And then I got to do ethnographic research, and that was like another step change of like, whoa, this is like fascinating to just this is a job. You just talk to people like and then so over time I just went from this like generalist to more of like a specialist researcher working on medical devices for a long time. I switched to like the internet world back in like 2014 or 15, something like that. I got a job at Airbnb, which is great. My first internet job. I worked there for a long time. Worked with some amazing people, UX research superstars. And then after that, left to work at a few different startups and like 0 to 1 teams. And that's how I sort of started to get involved in AI moderated research. Back when I worked at Open Door, I was, I think, one of the first, aside from Weight Watchers, I know that I was like one of the first, I guess, users, or we were one of the first adopters, I guess, of Outset, which is super cool. I then went to an AI travel startup after that. We used Outset a ton there. And a lot of the ideas we worked on are now prevalent in all the other like AI chat systems that everybody knows. So that startup is no longer. And now I work at Microsoft AI. I should clarify, I'm here on my personal like behalf, not as a representative
Yes.
of Microsoft, but that is sort of the arc of my career, doing more and more UX research and folding a lot of AI into it, in the last like 2 or 3 years. And now I don't know how to do research without AI in some flavor.
Well, we'll get into AI bit in a moment. So okay, yeah, you're here for yourself, not on behalf of Microsoft. So
Correct.
what's
Yeah.
Microsoft's stance on NVIDIA right now? No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
Um, I was like, what's the most contentious thing I could put you on the spot with? So okay, so you went from the medical devices world to Airbnb, and that was probably a big change in the kinds of work you were doing. I'd love to like, what was that? Like Airbnb, I don't know if listeners have heard this or agree, but like I feel like I've heard a very good reputation for research.
Yeah.
Like I just think that like they are a feeder. A lot of like prominent research leaders, like, well, I started Airbnb, I was at Airbnb. Um, so what makes that team, that culture, like the company, why is that the case? And like for first, is that perception right? And then second, like why is that the case? And kind of how did you learn that there?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's totally correct. I mean, just like numerically, you can look at like people who have Airbnb in their history and then now are like UX research leaders at other companies. They're like a million, not a million, but like dozens probably. And Judd, Anton was the leader there for a long time. He's like a UX research superstar, if there is such a
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
And but why is it? So I think it's a selection effect. It's a selection effect and a treatment effect, to be nerdy. I think Airbnb had a set of core values that they really like lived by. Like, so to get a job at Airbnb, you had to not only be capable in whatever your field was, but you had to pass these core value interviews. And they literally, like, every person had to do 2 core value interviews. And it was like Airbnb had a set of core values, but I think a lot of it bubbled up to like openness, like curiosity, like they weren't these things, but what they stood for were like curiosity, openness, like like humility. So, and I think those are things that make for really good researchers. So
Interesting.
I think there was a little bit of that there, like the culture of Airbnb selected for people just in general who are open-minded, but like all the things you want in a researcher are like the things that Airbnb is selected for. So I think that's part of it. Also, like Airbnb had like the benefit of being very like buzzy. Like a lot of people wanted to work there. It was in the city, so like a lot of people who had great training at like Facebook or Google or whatever, but lived in San Francisco, were like, this is an easier commute. This is another advantage. I think a lot of Airbnb's culture was influenced by like people who had honed their skills and worked on internet scale products at those big companies. So I think that was like another benefit of it. Like we had all the learnings from Facebook and Google and
Yeah.
the main ones, I guess, but and eventually other companies too. So there were a lot of ingredients that like led to like it being like a magnet for just the right type of people. And then, we did have Judd was great. Like I learned a ton from him, learned a lot about like how to mix quantitative and qualitative. We had so many, and it was like what do you call it? Like virtuous cycle, right? Where you get good
Yeah.
people, more good people want to work with those good people. And you just learn. We had such a great culture of learning. That was another Airbnb sort of implicit value. And I think we all learned from each other. And it was like this, yeah, a great place to like become a good researcher.
So it sounds like it was a combination of like the company culture, right, being one that was going to select for openness and curiosity, which happens to be great for research. It
Yep.
was a couple of key people, or maybe mostly Judd, or maybe a few of them that then like snowballed into more. And then great timing, right? It kind of feels like it was like wave two Silicon Valley, right? It was like Facebook and Google had already like built up these pools of very, very high-end talent from non-tech industries, and now like Airbnb is kind of wave two, right? Of like
Right.
now people want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, that's
Um,
an off the cuff answer. I
yeah.
have to think more about it. Don't get mad at me if I didn't say something.
Yeah.
Uh,
If there's anybody watching from Airbnb. No, I think that's interesting. Well, so, okay, so shifting more to the AI stuff, I'm like, you strike me as a very optimistic person about AI. Um, I've had the pleasure of actually talking to you about this stuff, so I actually kind of know that. But like, you do strike me as that way. I think you're probably generally an optimistic person broadly, but particularly in AI. So like, why is that? Why are you optimistic about AI in your universe?
That's a good question. I think I'm generally an optimist. Like, I just so whatever you can pick a. I'm an optimist about plants. Like or whatever you pick the topic. I'm probably an optimist.
Is that an important trait for a researcher? Should researchers be
Oh, that's a
optimists?
good point. Oh, that's a good one. That's a whole debate. I think there's room for both. You can't be like a jerk, but I think there's room for like cynical is not quite the right word, but like
Skeptic, skeptic.
skeptic for sure. And I try to be skeptical, but I feel like I'm a skeptical optimist or whatever. Like
Yeah,
like when we're doing research, like you always want to like be like I'm probably wrong. Like this is me at least. I'm like as I come up with things, I have this like I'm sure this is incorrect, but here's what I happen to think. It's this weird like inferiority complex sort of. But then you sort of have to prove yourself. It's like this idea of like falsifying rather than validating. Like this is probably wrong, and no, I can't prove it wrong. So maybe it's right. So I think that's the skeptical part of it. That's really important. I think it's important to be optimistic, especially like you want to be a team player. Like you don't want to be a naysayer. And I feel like this is a quick tangent. I feel like it's where UX researchers, it's like a common trap for UX researchers. I'm totally guilty of this. Like it can be so tempting to like point out all the flaws of a design, and you mean it's from good intentions. Like, oh, we showed this idea to people, or we showed this prototype to people, and here's all the things that are wrong. Isn't this great? Like now we know what to fix. But I think it can come off as like just pointing out all the flaws of
just
it.
ripping the design
Yeah,
apart.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And you're like, no, it's from a good place. But that's why I think there's you need to have that balance, at least in the world of like internet product research, where you are you're part of the team that's building something, right? You're not just some like outside observer. I'm just here to report the facts. Like no, like I'm part of the team. We're building this. So I think it's important to be optimistic just in general. What
yeah,
was your
yeah.
answer? Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Well, no. It's actually, I think there's a really broad lesson there, which is like, yeah, being a part of, like, being in the mentality of building and growing something is a fundamentally optimistic
Yeah,
posture.
yeah,
And it is, I think it is hard to be deeply skeptic, like a deep skeptic, right? Like not a mix, but like fully skeptic, and build something net new that has never existed. And
right.
actually, I equate this, like, I've my wife is a lawyer, so I think like often lawyers are viewed as the skeptic, the one that tells you all the things you can't do.
Mm,
And one of the awesome things that I've learned is that that's not everybody. In fact, a
right.
lot of lawyers can take a very growth minded approach, and some companies actually structure it that way, right? A lawyer is assigned to a particular product to help it grow by finding the avenues. And I think about that as like a little bit of an interesting analogy with UX
Mm,
research, where you're saying we are here to figure out what's good and what's not good based on like we're here to figure out the user and what we can do, and in legal it's the law and what we can do. But
mhm.
like ultimately the goal is growing something and building
Yeah.
something out of nothing. So anyways, just to add a thought to,
No,
yeah.
it's a great analogy. I love it because yeah, like I remember when I first worked because at like medical device companies, it's so regulated, right? So a lot of the legal, anytime you get legal involved, it's like, oh, what are they gonna shoot down? What are they gonna tell us we can't do? Or how they're gonna add more process and time, whatever. So it was such a change to go to Airbnb and like it's like, oh, we have lawyers that want to help. Like they were great. Like
Right.
very much like facilitating the like, let's find a way to do this. And then yeah, and all the well, like bigger companies that I've had lawyers, small companies don't have lawyers yet, but like Open Door had the same mentality. We had great lawyers there, like people that are like, let's try to figure out how we can. There's a lot of rules here, but we know what we want to do. We know what's best for the user. Let's try to find a way to make it work. And so I think it's a really good analogy because
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and it's all about the incentives in place. I mean, I think since we're giving positive examples, I'll give a negative one. I was at Tesla for a while, back in the days, many years ago, a decade ago almost, and I did not find that legal team as constructive. And I think a lot of it was because everybody was covering their ass, right? They were not. Like because of the culture that is in Tesla. I'm not going to make any opinions about that. It is people are are trying to survive, right? And I think as a result, it's a lot of that cover. If you're going to cover your ass and you're a lawyer, it's just like very cover your ass. You can really get into that mentality. So maybe, okay, so the broader lesson here is if you want to build cool stuff, you want everybody to be optimists in there. You want everybody to be building something.
Yeah, I mean, it's the importance of company culture, right? Like that,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
so, and Airbnb is like the embodiment of that. Like, I think they just were
exactly.
able to navigate so many like minefields and so many tricky things. I think it goes back to why we had such a good, also at the research team there, I think not only were we like, oh, we're all like really good at researching, but like you sort of have to have impact, right? For the research team to like have a nice flywheel. And I think that is in order to have impact as a research team, you need people that are open-minded and are like
Totally,
trying to make it work. So yeah,
totally.
super
So,
important.
all right, let's move on to the other stuff because I think, probably, I mean, we're an AI company. A lot of people join stuff like this. They want to think about AI. So we should get into that.
Yeah.
But first, I want to say it's a little weird to eat ice cream before lunch. I gotta be honest. I have not eaten lunch yet, and I just like crushed this ice cream, and it's a little weird. Um, okay, so what makes you optimistic about AI in research?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it work. Like
But
yeah,
project out. Like, I want you to like think about 5 years from now, like because
forward.
I think you can
Yeah.
find something useful today, which you
Yeah.
have done. But like, why
I
are you
think
optimistic broadly?
the meta reason is just the ability to scale research, to scale you as a researcher, your ability, your capabilities, whatever. Like I mean, I've already experienced that, but I feel like going forward, that will be like the sky's the limit almost on the ability to learn about people, learn about the world. It's, like if you go back like 10 years ago, there were the I actually wrote a blog post about this, but like we went for, I think we're shifting from this world of like scarcity in UX research to abundance, and we're like right in the middle of that. Like, and like 10 years ago, if you think about how research was done, it was like super, like there were not a lot of these digital tools didn't really exist. It was like you like write an email to a recruiting agency, they get back in like a week, and you formulate a plan, and then they recruit people, and it takes another week, and then you go. It was like so slow, and it was like, oh my gosh, so precious. We did 10 interviews and it took like 4 weeks and it cost like $20,000 or whatever. Like, there's clearly limits on that. And AI just like rips that wide open. That plus all these other tools that are emerging, some of which have nothing to do with AI, some of which are maybe accelerated by AI. But I think if you just project forward, like whether it's AI moderated interviews or AI powered recruiting, I don't know, that's probably a thing. But like or just AI powered analysis, like it just makes it so much easier to churn through a lot of things. And so I think that, like you just get a bigger perspective of the world and you don't have to make the trade-offs that you would have had to make like 10 years ago or even a couple years ago where you're like, well, we can only do this much research. So we have to think really hard and we got to like exactly get everything right. You can be much more forgiving on that and you can just move a lot faster and just, well, who cares? We'll just interview a lot of people or we'll do a lot more research because there's the cost is low, like the financial cost, the time cost. I think so that's sort of my meta takeaway on AI. Just allows us to scale and opens up new ways of learning that we haven't had so far.
Yeah, I love the phrase. You were going from UX scarcity to UX abundance.
Yeah.
Or maybe UX is the wrong word there. Maybe it's research or understanding or something, but research scarcity to research abundance.
Yeah.
Um, God, that's so good. I feel like that's a great blog post. You should write that.
I
I don't know
did.
what
No,
the title. Okay,
it's
you
out
did.
there.
Is
Yeah.
that was that the title? Is that literally the title?
I think so. I can put a link in the chat or whatever. But
You're about to say show notes. We all listen to
the
podcasts,
show
right?
notes. I was going to say show notes. um, but yeah, no, I did write chrismonnier.substack.com if you want to check it out. But like I put a link, whatever. But like that was like heavily influenced by Ben Thompson. I think we're both like Ben Thompson Stratechery fans.
Yeah.
And he's written a lot about just that in general. He's been on this abundance thing in general. Like the internet sort of opens up things. Everything's abundant. Content is abundant. Marginal cost is zero. And I feel like the same dynamics are happening in research. And so it's a really exciting time because it just opens up the possibilities and
Yeah.
like Ben Thompson's thing is like new business models become possible in a world of abundance because you don't have these limits of scarcity. Know if it's like business models per se, but there's like new opportunities for sure in a world of abundance, in a world of research abundance that I think I just get excited about.
Me too. I guess not surprisingly, because I wound up starting a company in this category, but like 100%, I think that the abundant, like the move towards abundance, or at least being on that path, is a very exciting one. Okay, but now let me flip it to you with A lot of people say you will get all I need is X interviews, 8 interviews, 5 interviews, 12 interviews, and everything else is a diminishing marginal return, and I've learned what I need to learn.
Yeah.
That debate has obviously been deeply held within the research community, particularly in people who are qualitative oriented. Like, tell me how you feel. Like, how would you respond to that person's critique here?
I mean, I'd say no, I agree. Like the first like 5 users are like well, okay, sort of it depends. Like right, if you're trying to find, I think the like the Jacob Nielsen 5 users thing is like for usability, I think it started from this idea of usability, right? And then people have like extrapolated beyond that. But like, yeah, sure, if you have a prototype or an existing product and you want to find like the majority of the usability issues, you probably can get most of that out of like talking to 5 users. Like those first 5 users that you talk to will reveal a ton of information, especially if you've never thought about it. Like if you just look right. So like I don't disagree with that. Um, I think though that that's like there's more to the one. There's more to research than usability. Like you're not just trying to find
Yeah.
usability issues, right? And so then it's like you can still get pretty far with like 5 is a little low, like 8 to 10. Like I still do studies with that many users, like single digit number of users, because a lot of times you're just trying to understand a phenomenon. You're just trying to understand like this thing that exists in the world, and I'm just trying to get a build an intuition almost around what that thing is. And the classic like approach in research is you build that intuition, that understanding, and then you with through the qual, and then you do the quant to sort of quantify. Oh, these are the things I learned. How prominent are these different phenomena that I observed? Um, so I think that whole thing, that whole debate is like a little bit of like a red herring, if that's the right word. Like if you just look at what Nielsen was saying, I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering this right, it's just usability. And so like another thing I would add though is that like in the world of scarcity, like 10 years ago, like I think there's a little bit of like maybe like motivated reasoning, like
Yeah. Yeah.
well, it's really we can't really do more than like 10 people or 15 people or whatever like a typical qual study was. So and hey, those are pretty valuable. So like let's I think there was a conflation between the amount of like the value you get out of qualitative research and the amount of people you need, because you can get a lot of value out of like a study with 8 people, but that doesn't mean you can't get more value out of a study with more people, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was just
I,
that there wasn't the possibility. Yeah, go ahead.
no, no, no. I definitely think your take is right, that in fact, the simple argument we're having is the wrong one, right? That basically we're this argument of like, do you need more or less in qualitative research is kind of it's you're missing the forest through the trees, I guess. We're gonna
Yeah,
keep throwing analogies out there. Like it's some things you are trying to learn can be apparent in the first conversation you have with someone, or the third, or the fifth, or the eighth. So if there's
exactly.
one thing you're trying to learn, and that thing is just like, I just need a gut. I mean, how many things like I'm sitting in our office, I have like some idea for some new marketing thing. I need a gut check from someone. I'm not doing research with 12 people or 50 people. I just need one person to tell me something, right? Like,
Right,
no, you're
right.
crazy, Aaron. And so it really just depends on the kinds of questions we're asking.
Totally.
And if
Yeah.
you really remove the scarcity mindset, I think you'll find oftentimes you really do expand what is useful. So for example, that example I just gave of like this marketing idea is stupid. Well, if I can hit a button and have 50 people tell me that, that's a lot more confidence, right? Like,
Right.
I don't know the infrastructure, if that works, if that makes sense, et cetera. But like ultimately, yeah, like more people is confidence, and confidence is a currency, right? If you can say I heard 90 people out of 100 said something versus 9 out of 10, well, your VP might have a different put a different level of confidence and value on that
Right.
data.
This make me think though, one maybe thing to be aware of with that is like it could be tempting to just rely on that as like if the cost of like that sort of like validation is like zero, like why not use it, right? And then you could imagine it being like a crutch, like ugh, every time I want to make a decision, hit a button. Well, oh, good, okay. Majority of people said it was good. Majority of people said it was good, and then you sort of like lose back to the early this part of the conversation, that like sort of skepticism, right? Of like that. I think it's important to you can't lose the critical thinking right, and just like not to say that's what you were suggesting, but I think there I could imagine
Yeah,
how
yeah, yeah,
if we get a little too reliant on that and just like hit button, get like if number greater than 50%, then good idea, like that's a little reductivist, but I think that there's a temptation there for sure, and to
Outsource.
try to understand like what, but like why is that a good idea? And also to you like, users are bad at like saying what they want, right? It's like
Yeah,
class
100%.
stated versus revealed preference and all that stuff, and the importance of taste. And so anyway, it just reminded me of like where it could sort of go wrong is if we
Well,
become too reliant on that.
Well, to cut in on that, I mean, I think in this world of abundance that or I'm describing of like testing some random marketing idea, like the idea is that AI is actually going deep and getting user to, observing their latent needs and their expressed ones. So I actually do think like the
Yeah.
point is that AI can do that because we have surveys today. We can say, do you like A or B more, right? There's still infrastructure problems why we can't just easily fire that off all the time, but like so the idea is you could do that. But the question then is like, what are you outsourcing from your brain?
Mm.
It's like Google Maps, right? Like
Right.
how good is your orienteering when you go to a new city? Like, do you know which way north is? Like, can you
Yeah.
get around? No. Like you've outsourced everything to Google Maps. Are our kids, hurt by that? Like, are we hurt by that? So there's an interesting question here as AI, let's just say, does tasks that are historically human, right? Like
Mm.
talking to a person. I think there's like we'll come back to maybe call it jobs and careers, but forget that for a second. Just in our own development of both our practice, of businesses, of ourselves, like what are the trade-offs here, right? Like what are humans uniquely good at in this stack where it's never going to not be human?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me pose that very small, very easy question to you.
Um, Sorry, I got distracted because I saw a question come in from Susan, who I used to work with, and
Okay, so what are humans uniquely good at here? Like what are humans?
right, okay, yeah. So I actually think that there's this really good synergy, to use that word. Everybody hates that word. I like that word. I'm gonna own it. I love synergy.
Good for you.
Because like between the human and the AI, like I feel like when if I've over-indexed on like using AI, whether it's the AI moderated stuff, we can talk about that, or AI like synthesis, putting everything in LLM, you just feel detached from the data. Like I have, this is what it said. These are the 5 bullet points it gave me. I guess I trust it. Like there's no connection to it. So I feel like there's this like the intuition comes from like being like as a human, there's no better way to build intuition than like having an actual conversation. Like so like and there's no better way maybe to scale stuff than through AI. Like, right, as a human, I can't have 1,000 conversations. AI can, but I can't build that intuition with 1,000 conversations, 1,000 AI conversations. I need to have even like more than one, probably like 5, 6,
So
10.
break that down. Why? Why do you, let's just like roll with this.
Yeah.
Why do you need to have a conversation to build the intuition?
Because of my I think because there's something that comes, oh, this is a good philosophical question. I think there's something that comes from uh like it's like it goes beyond like the words. There's like maybe it's
Yeah.
the non-vocal interactions, the pauses, the eye contact, the like um and you can even actually get it through like a phone conversation too. So it's more like the pauses and like the intonation and the like, well, you could tell they were really excited, or you could tell they were just faking it. Like, so I think there's a lot of the nonverbal communication that matters. I also just think like it's hard to want to read a transcript. Like, I don't know, like
Yeah, it's true too. That's true
boring,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'd rather spend an hour talking to a person than 20 minutes reading the transcript, or you know what I mean? Like I just, maybe that's just me, but like I just feel like I don't know the material. It's like a class. Like you can't just read the textbook. I can't, at least. That's not how I learn. I learn by like having the TA help me under like in a Q&A type thing, like explain something to me. Like I just
Yeah.
that's the type of learning that works for me, at least.
That's
Um
a good, okay. So I have a couple takes here, but I think one of them, just coming from you, I like that you, uh, just the fact that your brain knows that this is a human talking to me live in this moment somehow
yeah,
turns something on. Like, why is it that watching a teacher live is different than watching them in a classroom on a giant screen? What is
right,
it about the environment of a person? Like, even if you're not raising your hand, why
right.
is that? But I agree. I've never done well with online learning like broadly, and I love being in classes with lectures. Like what there's something about
There's something.
presence and another human that does something. So I will agree with you there. Though of course, then there's the issue of like, well, now you're on the phone. So now it really is down to the words and intonation. And like, well, AI can probably do a decent job. I mean, you know, again, projecting out, can do a pretty
Yeah,
good
yeah,
job
yeah,
about synthesizing all that.
for sure, yeah.
So my other one is that improvisation. That
Mm,
is something in an interview. Like you can have the world's best guide, but
yeah.
those building intuition moments are where you make a connection in your head from what they said to something else in your life that you could not have really
Oh, that's good.
articulated.
Yeah,
Then you ask another question that brings that in. I
yeah,
think improvisation is, and okay, so just when people ask me, like as customers, like when should we not use AI moderated research? Like what's the recommendation? I'm like, when improvisation is going to be a differentiator, or like when you need that,
yeah,
of course, AI is not going to do that the way you would because it doesn't have all the connections and all of the kind of. So in a way, we're doing synthesis across our own lives,
totally.
right? We're doing it constantly, and then we bring that into the interviews, bring that into conversations, into the way we look at data. So
Mhm.
I do think that that's going to be very, very hard for AI to do, right?
Right.
Like that is a long road ahead to somehow get AI so ingrained in our lives that it can pull in disparate bits here. I'm not sure that's ever possible.
Right. And I think another part of it is like, yeah, I mean, theoretically, maybe you could imagine like AI gets really good at figuring all that out. But then there comes the part of research where it's like you have to convince someone to make a change, right? As a
Yeah.
researcher, you don't do anything. All you do is influence people. And so like I I don't know, like I feel like if it's hard for me to get passionate about something that I as passionate about something that I read rather than what I feel. And there's moments where you're doing an interview and it's probably when you like you sort of articulated, you connect a dot from like, oh, somebody said that like 2 weeks ago, or like, oh, we were just talking about that with in a design meeting, or like whatever the
Yep. Yep.
are. And then that there's like this, isn't this a saying, if it fires together, it wires together or something? I can't remember, some brain thing where like I think this is true. There's like a psychological thing that goes on, like when emotions are heightened, you like remember things better. I think that's a thing. I should look that up.
No,
But
that's not, that,
yeah, go
that
ahead, go
rings
ahead.
a bell. I think that's a thing.
Yeah.
We'll
So
call it a
anyway,
thing.
like that I feel like I don't get, it's hard to get like to get excited or emotional, or like it's hard to feel meaning. Like I can think of so many interviews, like that I've moderated where like it sticks with me. Like I can like right now I'm getting like goosebumps. Like there's like people I've interviewed where it's like, whoa, what a moment. Like I've never had that with an AI. I've never had it to that extent. I have watched AI moderated interviews, like videos that we've collected through Outset, that where it's like, oh, this is pretty, there's something here, but it's not the same level of like, whoa, that
Yeah.
changed me.
I think, and this, I'll just give one last thought here, and then I want to actually address Susan's question. It's really interesting. I mean, I think that like it reminds us that research is not just about the collection and synthesis of data, right?
Mhm.
That actually the way in which people receive research, whether it's the researcher like yourself or the stakeholders, right? And we all know, probably folks on this call, like how you package and present things to stakeholders like totally matters. That can like make or break everything,
Right,
right?
right.
Just storytelling is huge. So like the packaging, the way in which we all receive it is just as important as the way we collect it and understand it. And so
Yeah.
I think it's a good reminder even for us of just like a lot of the experience that we have to build isn't just about the participant and about the data, the raw data, but it's actually about the evoking the emotions from that.
Right.
If AI is going to be able to do that through AI moderated, we need to figure that out. I mean, that's hard. The other
Sorry,
thing I was,
go ahead, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, this is
I
the
was
problem. You and I keep talking. We're never going to actually move on to other
Well, I
topics.
just
But keep going.
one little point on this, because I think fail would be remiss if I don't bring this in, which is like for stakeholders, um, like nothing works better to get to convince stakeholders of like a problem or like an opportunity than having them in the interview itself. So I think that there's something that
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That like you
yeah,
can have the best report in the world, the best video clips in the world, it's still not going to resonate as like you can talk to an executive who's like, oh, I remember talking to a user 3 years ago, and like the one interview they attended, but it sticks in their brain like everything. So I think there's something there, and I think that raises another tangent that we don't have to go down, which is like, how do you, in a world of AI moderated interviews, what's the role of the stakeholder? How do you bring them in to make
yeah.
them feel that same thing? I don't know, but we should get to Susan's question.
It's super good. I have people often ask like, is there a I forget what the name is, like a back room. You know how like
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
is that the
yeah.
right word? Back room?
Backroom. Yeah,
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 like the focus group
yeah.
behind the glass. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, behind the glass. Is there a behind the glass version? I'm like, well, not for us because like this actually isn't a like live stream Zoom of like AI talking to you. It's like you're recording responses. So there
Yeah.
isn't some back room we can put people in. But that question comes up for a reason, right? Which is because you want, even a back room is better. Yeah, having a stakeholder do it is great, but even just having a back room, and there's something about live. Why do we watch live sports, right? Live
Yeah,
means something.
right,
So a
right,
live interview is more powerful than an asynchronous
for
one
sure.
in certain ways. So anyways,
Yeah,
okay. I'm forcing us to move on. So Susan is asking, so it sounds like you used to work with Susan.
yeah. Susan and I work together at Open Door. She's an amazing quantitative researcher.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I think that's right. I got to know Susan as well.
Okay.
Okay. So I also see, okay. Yeah. Now we're all just talking here. I also saw, I think there's another person, ex-person from Open Door. I won't out people, but, I think there's your whole crew is here. So anyways, the question about fraud. So if we're doing qualitative research, now in some way that is automated, what does that mean for fraud, right? Because we've seen that with surveys, right? Surveys have had the whole universe of fraud and the battle between the two sides. So how do we think about the like, what does this mean for qualitative research if we're doing more of this with respect to fraud? I'll put it to you, and then I'll share some thoughts.
I know it's a real problem. Like I think it's I totally agree with Susan's sort of assertion. Like one of the problems with various platforms, I won't name any names, is fraud. Like you get these people that are like clearly in it just to make like if you're
You better
recruiting.
not be talking about Outset.
I'm not no comment.
No, sorry. Keep going.
No
Keep going.
comment.
I'm just messing with you.
No, like inevitably, right? If you have if you I mean honestly, I remember I've had scammers in good old fashioned like manual recruiting. I remember like I interviewed someone in London one time that was like hi, and they clearly were not like didn't fit the criteria. And that was the old fashioned way. So it happened back then. It's going to happen now. There's always fraudsters that slip through. They get past your screener. They're clearly in it just to make the money. And so as it's just going to, that's going to probably, the opportunity for that fraud is going to scale with everything else. Just like the internet, you can use all the other, like the opportunities for fraud on the internet have scaled just with everything else, right? Like it's just the nature of abundance and the nature of scaling is that you get the good stuff and you get some of the bad stuff. And so it's a totally real problem. You can probably speak
Yeah.
more to like whatever Outset's doing to combat that. But
Well, I mean, I think I'll talk more to like the future stuff. We have some fraud detection stuff that we do today, but like I think why like what I would pose back. So if you had an audio here, Susan, what I pose back is like, why is this not a problem today in qual? And obviously, Chris, you said it has been before, but like for the most part, we don't think of it as top of mind in qualitative research as we do in quant, right? Because in qualitative research, you are looking at a person, right? And so yes, they could have lied on their screener, et cetera, but they're not a bot, right? They're not somebody who's like just like who's going to give you no answers because because you get the opportunity to see they're in fact a real person. They are in fact, you know, like actually giving real answers, and they are like their intonation sounds like they're not reading off of ChatGPT, which is maybe a newer issue, but like you can detect it yourself. And what I would say is the beauty of AI is we're getting better and better at mimicking these things from humans. And I actually think with the scaling of the moderation, we can also scale the fraud detection. I don't mean fraud detection in the kind of purely kind of traditional sense of fraud detection, but actually like the imagine you were a human running a screener. Right. I don't know if you've ever done these like deeper qual where you're like actually have a human run, like basically human do
oh,
screening
like
calls.
on the phone,
Very
like yeah,
expensive,
yeah.
right? We have had people use Outset as a screener for other research, right? Like, so in other words, like what you can do is, and that was, that's without any like fraud stuff that we've built for AI to do. That's just like to get a qualitative feedback from someone so you can see how they answer questions. But you can imagine a real time AI saying this person is A, legit, not legit. They're in good faith. They're not in good faith. I always like to not say they're in it for the money because of course people are in it for the money, but is it good faith? Right? Like, is it a good faith? Like they're trying to do their best to answer, like, like all of these things. I think AI is actually going to get pretty good at this. So,
Makes sense.
in some ways, I'm just I'm like I'm neutral on it, right? Like, yes, the problem will scale, and also our solutions will scale. It's kind of my take.
Yeah. Love it.
Let me check out. So Catherine, okay, well, she's added herself now. So your other ex open colleague, see, probably not a product priority, but I imagine you could create a model to, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yep, exactly that. So that's the I think AI can get better and better at that. You can even have AI get better at like, kind of routing people. Like this is a,
Mm.
high error or a kind of core ICP user or not. Like you can imagine like interesting routing, um, where AI is like playing even a more kind of not just eliminating the negative, but actually offering some positive as well.
Oh, boring the people like this. You should really talk to this person because XYZ. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
exactly, exactly. Or hey, this is a person you should actually talk to offline, right? Like this is like our top five, right? Like
Oh
this
yeah,
is gonna be
totally. Oh,
a
that's
great
good.
interview. Go do your improv with them. And I mean improv. Not, you get what I mean.
I know what you
Go your
mean.
all that. Okay, okay, let's it's 12:45. So this flew by. But there's several more things I want to talk to you, and I have blocked the hour, so we can keep rolling.
All right.
If that's cool for another,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, let's do it.
all right. Synthetic users.
Yeah. Oh, good. All right. I was hoping it was gonna
And
get
I promise I won't clip this and then post it on LinkedIn.
synthetic users are perfect, and there's no more UX researchers needed. No,
So okay, actually let me frame it up a little bit, which is number one, why is this such a hot topic for the industry? Why do people care so much? And number
yeah.
two, what is the role in the future? So first talk about the community. Why is this such a big thing?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of the whole UX research community, but like
Your
what I think
best.
is going on, what I think is going on is, it's like I think we all got into this. Like, if I think of my own like origin story, like why did I decide to do this instead of mechanical engineering or UX design or whatever? Like it was because the people. Like I was fascinated by the people, by talking to humans, and like, oh my gosh, every human has a unique story. Like, and then it's like then you come in and just tell me it's all like a ruse and you can just have like AI like do this thing. No, 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 no. Like what? I think it like goes to the core of like the reason you did this, right? Like, no, it's about the people. It's not about the it's not about what they say, or it's not about like the insights even. It's about the conversations and the people. I don't know, for me at least, especially qualitative. Like, so maybe that's part of what's going on is like
Yeah,
how
yeah.
dare you try to remove the user from user research. It's called user research, like not AI research. I guess we should have called it human research, but I think Apple might. I don't know. But anyway, so I think that's part of it. Is that it strikes at the core of like the very essence of what it is. But what I think, how I think it's useful, I have a couple ideas. One is, so I have used it. This is going to sound like I'm plugging Outset, but like I have used it in Outset to test like a script that I've written, like like a write an interview guide or whatever. I'm like, how are people going to like deal? Are people going to respond to did I frame the question the right way to get the type of answers I want? Synthetic users are really good at that because it like helps you find like mistakes. Like, oh, that's not how okay, that makes sense that people would interpret my question that way. That's not what I meant. And then you change it. It's just like how you might have used, I feel like that's a good replacement for, I've used like unmoderated research for that type of thing. Like I have a survey. I really want to make sure it's good before I ship it out to 1,000 people. Let me put these questions in front of some people to see how they answer it and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
to think they're interpreting the question correctly. So I think that's one like solid use case right now, which is pretty limited, but that's like a no-brainer for me. Like why not? Why not put your thing in front of some synthetic users? I have another idea, but I'll pause there in case you have questions.
No, that's a net new use case, right? It's like putting your, we do automated tests for when you write code, right? You have
Right,
automated tests.
right,
Why can't we
right.
have automated tests for,
Yeah.
and by the way, sidebar, like there's a whole industry, I think, that will be doing synthetic testing of things that we've only like human experiences, right? Synthetic testing of your new app, for example. So like sending AI agents that are browsing, they can browse the web to go through and find issues. And I think that like you're not going to get the level of qualitative output from that of like understanding what's really in their head and deeply do they need while they go through this, but you will find a bunch of obvious stuff, right? And so
Right.
I think at the very surface level, that's a net new that does not really exist in any meaningful way. So it's like brand new. So, anyways, I agree with that. But keep going, keep going.
No, that touches on where I think it's going to go. Like, I think that type of thing. If you imagine, like, you have these, like, agentic, whatever, synthetic users that can, like, browse the web or use apps or whatever, use computers, then, like, why couldn't you just train those with personas or with certain experiences? Like, this person, like, I don't know, is like load it. It's like I always think of like the Matrix, where they like to put the chip in their head or whatever. Like I think you could get to the point where like this person is trained, this like an expert like user in this field, like, and then they go off and do it. And then this person is a total novice. They don't know anything about anything. And so you could why so it's not just like there will be one type of agent that like knows all. I feel like you can like sort of load them with like personality or like levels of experience or I don't know, like levels of intelligence or whatever you want to call it, like levels of emotional intelligence, like all the whatever personality is, you should be able to like have a variety of agents go off and try to use a thing. And again, I don't think it's like a replacement. I think this is like this like false dichotomy, like which maybe gets to like we have to get out of the scarcity mindset. It's not like, oh, you're going to replace
Yeah,
human users with the synthetic users.
that's
No, no,
right.
no, no. Like, why not both? Like, let's whatever we can do with synthetic users. Like, why wouldn't we do that? Like, and if it's garbage data, don't use it. Like, but try it. And I don't know. I have found it to be useful. And so as the tech matures to the point where it's valuable, like use it and still talk to humans. But then get rid of you can if you can get rid of the first like 50% of obvious issues with the synthetic people, that just means you can go that much deeper when you actually when you take that precious time out of someone's day to talk to them, you don't have to waste your time on like the obvious stuff,
Yeah,
right? You can go really deep. So I feel like there's like a good synergy again with how synthetic users can complement.
yeah. I think that's right. I mean, like I like to start any of this by saying, as long as we are building for and selling to humans, we will be listening to humans. I think to think otherwise is
Right.
like,
Right.
even if synthetics could give you effectively perfect data, the people involved in making the thing or building the thing or designing the thing will want to hear from humans. So even if like, and I'm not just talking about UX researchers, I'm talking about the company, right? Like the company will want to their employees to feel the emotional sense to feel the proximity to a customer, to a user. So I think as long as we are building and selling for humans, we will be listening to humans. And also, exactly to your point, I couldn't have said it better that like in an abundance mindset, what else can we use synthetic for? So if we're already going to listen to humans, what can't we do today, even with the abundance of things like AI moderated research or the synthesis of all this unstructured data? Like what still can't we do?
Right.
Right. And I think that's where you can really get yeah, you can apply it to places we don't have it today. But the other thing I like to say about this is like, even in a world where AI has taken all of our jobs and we're all like, chilling on the beach and drinking a beer, we still want the beer to taste good. So whoever's making the beer is still going to ask us if we like it, right? Like,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
so, it is obviously like the dystopian whatever, but like there's as long as there's a human experience and a human taste, then we will obsess over that experience and we'll have taste to build those. So
Yeah.
I think that's my like, it's not particularly contrarian, I feel like, in this community. And so I'd probably get more clicks by saying synthetic will replace research. But like I think the truth is much more yeah, I like that. It's a yes and.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Um cool. Well, I had we are now at what are we at? 12:51 Pacific. Um I wanted to ask you, like, I know you have kids, like you think about I'll just share, like I spoke to a group of college students the other day at CCA, so California College of the Arts. They're design research students, or they're doing a design research program. Um, and like it's interesting to hear their take on the world of AI. And it's not just them. Like I had my 16-year-old cousin visit recently, and like we were like just in conversation, the amount of times he said, "Oh, AI will take that job," like in a total nihilistic way, not sad, not happy, just like it is what it is, like is a very real thing. So I like how would you speak to someone who is maybe in school, maybe younger, maybe earlier in their career, about how to navigate the fact that AI is making everything feel a little squishier, a little harder to pin down. And maybe you can talk about generally or in research or both. But like that's my last question for you.
Yeah. I think my quick answer is like just like embrace it. Airbnb has a core value, embrace the adventure. It's one I was thinking my favorite one. Like, just like go with it. Like, what are you gonna do? Fight it? Like, too bad. Like, the ship has sailed. Like, where AI's here, like, and try to make the most of it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, like I think it's my son uses ChatGPT to do like to like help him with like this advanced math class he's doing, and like sometimes it's like help explain that to me, not like don't do it for me, like that, what's the point, but like help explain it, like a tutor, like, and this is there's like a lot of research that AI is really good at this type of mode of education, and I feel like that's the right way to approach it, is like this is a thing that exists. How do we use it as we humans have used tools like ad infinitum, like that's always a thing, like, and I think it's maybe a little scary because like, yeah, but it's never been this good, right? Like it's one thing to say like, this helps me, well, the car helps me go from here to there a lot quicker, but this is like we're talking about synthetic users, like, right, like we're talking about replacing humans, like, so I think that's why it's like natural, inherently a little like scary. But to your point about the like idea of like even the beer has to taste good. Like there's always going to be a need. Like humans are never satisfied. There's always like
Yeah.
going to be a need for like you were never going to get to the point where it's like no, we solved humanity. Like the AI figured it out, and humans are just riding around in their Wally chairs, like drinking their whatever from that. They're like even then they're still going to be like yeah, but it doesn't taste as good, or like the chair could be more comfortable. Like, and I mean that in a good way. I think it's like the fact that people are never satisfied means there will always be a need to figure out what, in the research standpoint, what makes them satisfied, what improves their experience. Like it's not, we just, I can't imagine we're ever going to get to the point where it's like nailed it and done. Like, so I think, and you can just like
Yeah.
apply that,
Yeah.
ripple that all the way out. Like there's always going to be a need to, so you need to make the chair more comfortable, which means you need to design a better mechanism for the chair, which means you need a new material, and sure, can't the AI do that? Yeah, but like, I don't know. I feel like there's always like some human layer that's needed, and to to give up and just be like, well, AI is going to do it, so like, why should I even bother? Like, why should I even learn math? Because AI is going to like, AI can already do it. It's like, yeah, but AI could do calculator. Like we had calculators. Like it's still there's value in like understanding how to learn and how to adapt. Maybe that's the skill that's maybe most beneficial. Is like to learn how to adapt to the ever changing world is essential. So like learn how to adapt. That's my advice. Learn how.
Yeah, it's I love that answer. I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to it. I guess let me push you to be tactical for people entering the research field, right? Like what has worked for you in your career, if you could lean on that at all, to like, and you've had a very successful career in the world of research, like what to focus on in the world of AI? Like what is it about adaptability? Is it about having a deeper understanding of the strategy of the business? Is it about kind of core fundamentals? What's the recipe for folks?
I think yeah, for researchers, I think that the nature of the job is evolving, will continue to evolve to be less about the gathering and more about the like the sense making and the like impact driving. Like like you can imagine in the future it'll be like press button, get like results. But now you got to do something with it. Like now you have to like influence people. And I feel like like that's probably so it's like I would encourage people to learn how to embrace the AI tools that are out there and all the other the non-AI tools, like the tools that make it easy to recruit, tools that make it easy to make video clips. Like there's a ton of like research tools out there. Learn how to use those, and then with an eye towards influence, like that, because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, all that matters. Like if and so like whatever it takes to drive that influence, like learn those tools, and I think that will be like a North Star for what do I need to learn next? I don't know. What's going to help you come up with video clips quicker? Or what's going to help you ask a better question? Or what's going to help you like personalize your report to each stakeholder? I just made that up, but why not? Like, like so that I feel like that as a guide is the way to think, to anchor your approach, is just like how do I have the most impact? How can I save time? I spend all this time doing X. How can I reduce the amount of time that I spend on that so I can spend more time talking to stakeholders? How can I spend more time like meeting with stakeholders and having lunch with them? Like that sounds like ugh, really, but like I feel like that's actually super important. And if you can take 30 minutes from I don't know, from like spending time cutting a video and apply that towards having lunch with a stakeholder, that's probably like a really good trade-off. So anyway,
I love that. I love that. And so I want to wrap us up. I know there's a couple questions, I think mostly directed at you. So let me just say quickly, I love that framing at the end. Impact. If you can look through everything through the lens of the impact you will have on the organization, on the people, et cetera, you're probably doing directionally the right stuff. And I like that, regardless of AI's role.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. This was awesome. This was a wonderful, like, I really enjoyed this. I think you and I probably both enjoyed this. We already have these conversations, but I hope it was enjoyable for other people. Please give us feedback, give me feedback. I'm going to do a series of these conversations. Maybe we'll bring Chris back at some point. Like, this is just fun to have these conversations. So let me know what you think, positive or negative. And then just the last, where can you reach us? So I am Aaron at outset.ai. You can ping me anytime. You can also find us obviously on Outset website. So Maria, you're welcome to direct your questions to me. Anywhere people should find you. You can replug your blog and anywhere else people should find you.
Yeah, chrismonnier.substack.com. My name is on the thing, Monni, Chris Monnier at chrismonnier.substack.com. That's the best place to go. I can answer Maria's questions like in 15 seconds. Can I just do it? Do
15 seconds. Go. Go.
What stage? I'd say early on. Like, why not? Just try it and get it. Use it as a toe in the water to see if you're on the right track. Have I successfully completed a project? Yes. What do you think of the impact results? I think it was very impactful. Sorry, I could elaborate if I need more than 15 seconds.
Okay, I think that's a good 15 seconds, but Maria might be looking for a little bit more depth there. So
Maria, you can reach out to me too on LinkedIn. You can find me and message me or something.
Yeah. LinkedIn. So find us and again, give us feedback on this. And this was awesome. Thank you, Chris, for joining me. This was great. And I hope you enjoyed your ice cream.
Thank you. Yeah, I still have some to eat. So it's super.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm definitely done. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. See you later.
Bye, everybody.